Hi guys, today is April 8th, 2020. Futures are higher as investors think that the disease is plateauing, but still not so good news coming from New York State as the number of mortality cases has increased recently, but still futures are higher because investors are optimistic about the future. Okay, so let's jump to S&P 500. S&P 500 is pointing higher, obviously, this morning, pre-market, but I still think we may have a leg lower, as I told you before, because as investors see the numbers that coming from this outbreak, the next quarter numbers, there will be some devastations in those numbers. So David Tepper, the legendary investor, he came on CNBC recently and said that the recovery is not going to be a V-shape, but rather U-shape, because there were a lot of devastation made during those months of shutdown. So I think we'll be still like lower, and I will be very, very careful with my purchases, and I may try to trim my long-term positions a little bit just to raise some cash. Okay, so let's jump to corporate news. Tesla said that they will be doing pay cuts, temporarily pay cuts, and also furlough some hourly employees, and it plans to restart their production plants that were closed on May 4th. So Tesla in general is a pretty good company. It's reporting really good numbers in light of this outbreak compared to everything else, and Tesla is a good place to be in, and they almost didn't downgrade their guidance last time they reported. So at $553, I mean a little bit lower, a little closer to 500, I would be a buyer of Tesla. Okay, RPM International. RPM is the maker of specialty coatings, sealings, building materials, and they reported pretty good numbers, beat by 2 cents, but they said that they expect 10 to 15% decline in Q4. So in general, it's not a bad stock to be in, pays pretty good dividend, and pretty much moves along with the market, with S&P 500, but on top of that, they pay a pretty good dividend. So I would be watching the stock in general. That's a good long-term stock to be in RPM. Okay, GenMark Diagnostics. Okay, symbol GNMK. So they reported preliminary Q1 results. They expect 38.7 million in revenue versus 24.8 million expected. And they raised their full year guidance, and this is a pretty good and perfect candidate for a swing trade. I wouldn't stay in this stock for a long term. This is not long buy and hold. This is a swing trade on volatility. So this stock may move a lot today, and maybe I wouldn't buy it at the open. Obviously, I would fade the open and see if I can pick up some shares when it drops, and then sell it almost the same day or maybe the next day, because this is a good candidate for a swing trade. GNMK. PSMT. Okay, PriceSmart. PriceSmart is the warehouse club operator, and they said that the sales rose 17.1% in March, but they saw the slowdown at the end of March, and they draw down on their credit facility. And I mean, that's a decent stock to be in. I'd rather be in Costco, to tell the truth, than PriceSmart. But PriceSmart is also a good candidate, pays good dividend, PSMT, and that's a stock to consider in this environment. Okay, Levi, Strauss and Company. That's a jeans company, and they actually reported pretty good earnings, beat by 5 cents, but withdraw their guidance. There's other issues, even though it's pretty cheap right now, but I don't want to be in Levi in this environment, because we don't know when the department stores will open, and who knows what's going to happen. I'd rather be in other companies than Levi, Levi, but it's a good company to watch in general. So let's jump to REITs. Okay, these REITs, they've been beaten down a lot lately. I mean, some of them lost like 70, 75%, 80%, 90%. That's crazy. So finally, some good news from some of those REITs. And I'm looking at Ellington Financial, stock symbol EFC. And that stock is trading pre-market higher. And they reported that they have met all their margin calls. And on top of that, they have their dividend. But that was actually good news, because most of these REITs are completely removed their dividend. And their dividend is 8 cents right now. I mean, they just announced it, 8 cents monthly they will pay. And I think it's not a bad company to actually swing trade, in my opinion, because they reported the $15 book value for its stock. And I mean, I wouldn't buy it at the open, but if it comes down closer to around $6, that would be an interesting purchase, in my opinion. Another REIT that reported is New York Mortgage Trust. Okay, so New York Mortgage Trust is a tiny company at this point. It wasn't lately, but right now it's a tiny company, and the shares are jumping like 35% this morning because they said that they met all the margin calls recently. They have also said that they have $200 million in cash and $3 billion overall portfolio of mortgage-backed securities. Okay, so by the way, to invest in those REITs, you have to really understand what mortgage-backed securities are and how they work, because mortgage-backed securities is pretty much self-explanatory, because it's the security backed by mortgages. All the mortgages, for example, you borrow some money to buy a house and you take a mortgage. All these mortgages are sold to a group of people that package it in securities and sell it to investors. So obviously, if people cannot pay their mortgages, the mortgage-backed securities will go down. And in anticipation of that, back in March, all these mortgage-backed securities plummeted, like literally plummeted, and these companies were in big trouble. And if not for the Fed that came in to help these companies and started to buy those mortgage-backed securities, all these companies, I mean, not all these companies, but a lot of these companies would be liquidated, literally liquidated. And a lot of them were issued margin calls that they could not have met. Such companies like MFA Financial, MFA, which I thought that would be a great company to be in, but they were issued a number of margin calls back in March, and they could not have met them. But as a big company like this, they have, they had talked to clearinghouses, and they have made arrangements to not being liquidated and give them time a little bit. And during that time, Fed was buying mortgage-backed securities, and mortgage-backed securities went back up. So they basically survived this. So MFA Financial is the stock that I'm watching, but they haven't provided any updates, so I'm not sure what's happening with them. The stock that I like in this environment is Annaly. They recently sent a letter to their shareholders explaining what they have and what positions they have, and that they have a lot of cash on hand, and they still have 1.5 billion in stock repurchase program. So that's a good stock to be in, Annaly Financial. They're still paying the dividend, they said. So compared to other REITs, that's not a bad stock to be in. Another not a bad stock to be in is AGNC Investment. They also provided an update on their financial recently, and they said that their book value is about $12.85 as far as I remember. Okay, so let's jump to other stocks. Nuva, which is Nuvasive, upgraded by Baird. It's a medical device company that develops devices for minimally invasive surgeries, spine surgeries for the most part, and they were upgraded by Baird to outperform, and that's not a bad company to be in my opinion, on a sell-off, NUVA. Okay, so Disney said that they might require temperature checks at their parks, when their parks reopen. That would be interesting. But in general, Disney at low hundreds, it's a little bit too expensive to me because they're very exposed to this outbreak. Lower, I would be interested in Disney, but not at these prices. So Wynn Resorts, a symbol WYNN, they issued 600 million senior notes at 7.75%. Well, that means that investors are still hungry for risky debt. But in general, I'm not sure if I'm a buyer of Wynn. I'd like to buy it closer to $50, to tell you the truth, or even lower. And same thing, NCR. NCR is the maker of like ATM machines, point of sale terminals, and they also issued some notes, 400 million notes. And I think I'm gonna wait for NCR to come down a little bit before I'd buy them. Okay, but the company that I'm interested in is Perrigo. It's PRGO. So this company said that they saw a surge in sales in its first quarter. It's a drug maker that makes flu vaccines, and obviously everybody forgotten about the flu in this outbreak, COVID-19 outbreak. But we were in the middle of the big flu season, and a lot of people were coming down with the flu. But I like this company a lot, PRGO. Okay, so, and also Pins Interest reported pretty good numbers, and they're higher this morning, and so I would be interested in Pins. Twitter was upgraded this morning, and there was a price target of $29, and I like Twitter in general. And BA is implementing two software updates for their Boeing 737 MAX. And I mean, BA is closer to mid 130s, is a good buy in my opinion. And the last company I'll give you is Zoom Video. Zoom Video is target of a class action suit because of their privacy and security issues. Low hundreds is I am a buyer of Zoom. Okay guys, that's it. That's the wrap for the day. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and I'll see you tomorrow.